Bonjour, my name is David DeVere. I'm a wine educator and traveler, and you're watching Savvy Nomad TV, the Eau de Vie edition. Today, we're talking Chardonnay. We're going to taste these two different Chardonnays. We're going to talk about Chardonnay. Hopefully going to help you understand how to pick a Chardonnay for your meal, your friends, your cocktail, whatever. If it's Chardonnay you need, this is the place to be. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so if you watched the last episode, you saw me going to Costco and choosing these two Chardonnays. Briefly, I've got a Chablis Kirkland Premier Cru and a Raeburn Russian River Valley from California. French, Californian. This is an important part of this, so pay attention. Old style, new style. Old world, new world. New world copies old world, but not exactly. They do new stuff because they like to mix it up and make new style wines. Old world copies the historic standard. They just stick to what they know. They've been making it like this since 1600. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's Chablis Premier Cru. Okay, let's talk about that for a little bit. The French system of rating something. Chablis is an area in France, in northern Burgundy. I don't know why the Burgundians claim this. It's actually pretty far from the rest of the wine-growing regions in Burgundy, but they do. They claim it. They claim Chablis is their own. In Chablis, they only make Chardonnay. Now, somebody's probably going to say, wait a minute, I had a Pinot Noir from Chablis, but really, for your all intents and purposes, you're only going to find Chardonnay from Chablis here in the United States and in really most of the world. Now, the bottle says Chablis, that's the town. It's a white wine. It's got Chardonnay in here. That's it. If it says Chablis, it's Chardonnay. Now you know. Premier Cru, what does that mean? In Burgundy, they grade the levels of wine. And the grades work like this. You've got Grand Cru, Premier Cru, then you've got Village or Village, and then you have a general regional area. Like, they would actually use the word superior in French. But in French, superior doesn't mean the best or better like it does in English. It means the greater region. So I live close to Lake Superior. That doesn't actually mean the biggest or best lake. It means the largest geographic lake. And, well, it is. Okay. So Premier Cru is second level from the top. There's Grand Cru, very, very top. And if this was Grand Cru, they would advertise that because that's important in marketing. Also, the Grand Crus would probably name the field that they're produced in. So there'd be some weird French little name that you don't understand, but you would understand the price. Regular Premier Crus are $40, $50 a bottle. You want to go to Grand Crus, now you could double that, or $60, $80, $100. That's quite a lot of money for Chardonnay. Now this one was $17.79. And we'll see if that stands up. That's a really good bargain for Premier Cru. So direct sales, obviously, from Costco working out. That's how the French grade their wines in Burgundy. Grand Cru, Premier Cru, Village, etc. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the grape itself. Love it or hate it. That's where people generally fall with Chardonnay. I've had some people say it's all they drink. It is their primary beverage. Other people say, no way, I can't stand it. It's like licking a board. Okay, well, why is that? The grape expresses itself and is very mutable to winemaking techniques. So when you oak a Chardonnay, that shows up. When you plant a Chardonnay in a particular area, that soil and that characteristic, that climate, all those things combined equal the word terroir, gets expressed up into the flavors that are in the grape. So a Chablis, which is non-oaked, compared to a tree-free Australian wine, will taste a little bit different. They will express themselves differently. Technically, most often people describe Chablis as having kind of a saltiness or a minerality to it, a racy acidity, a sharpness, a bite to the wine. Where in Australia, it's, for a non-oaked Chardonnay, it's more lemony, it's more green apple, it's maybe zingier with lime than it is than a Chablis. Now, when you add the influence of oak, like in our California one, and what they do that also in Burgundy quite a lot, you get butter and you get roundedness, you get toasted bread, you get not red delicious apples, but something like that. You get butterscotch, you get caramel, all these different aromas, same grape, but it's changing. Okay, so that's Chardonnay. I like Chardonnay, but I don't seek it a lot. It pairs very well with breakfast, and that would be a old world style, which is going to pair better with food, and a new world style is going to be a better cocktail. Don't ever order a Chablis as a cocktail. That's kind of a waste, but order it with your eggs Benedict at brunch. Perfect. Order the California oaked Chardonnay as your cocktail, and it will pair less well with your eggs Benedict, but it'll probably go good with bacon and toast and just fried eggs. So there's a little bit of a difference. Okay, let's taste these two wines. Okay, the number one hot tip, if you take nothing else from this video, is to make sure that you serve your Chardonnays at the right temperature. Oh, I've got a temperature probe here, and if I look at this, it's 63.8. That's much too hot. Also, don't leave this in the refrigerator and just chug-a-lug drink it as you want. It's too cold in the refrigerator. This needs to be about 50, 55 degrees. That's proper serving temperature, and that will really allow the aroma of the wine to come through in the best way possible. Look, you just spent almost 20 bucks for this. Don't you want to get the best out of the bottle? You can do that by serving it at the right temperature. So I'm going to go fill up my ice bucket, plop the bottle in for 7 minutes, and then we'll taste it. Okay, about 5 or 6 minutes, maybe 7, and this will be done and ready to drink. Now, let's talk about the ice bucket just really briefly. This is the easiest, quickest, and best way to get a wine down to temperature. I filled this up with ice and water, about 50-50, because you need the water to actually disperse the cold. If it's just ice, you know the movies, they always put the champagne in a big thing of ice. That doesn't chill anything. Maybe it keeps your shrimp good, but that's dumb. If you need to actually chill a wine bottle, it's water and ice together. Okay, couldn't you just put it in the freezer? Yes, but you're going to need half an hour or 40 minutes, something like that, in the freezer, and you might forget about it. Now, it's either too cold or maybe blown up. Could you leave it in the refrigerator? Yes, but maybe you've got an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours to get it done. Can you plan that far ahead? I can't. I pick a wine for dinner or when friends are coming over and then plop it in the ice bucket. Plus, look at the ice bucket. Look how cool this thing is. Now, you don't need a metal ice bucket. You could get plastic ice bags. I take those on picnics. There's a link in the description to those. They're great. If you order a wine in France, they'll bring you an ice bucket with water and they'll clip it to the side of the table. It's super cool. It's a great item for any person who wants to step up their wine game. Get yourself an ice bucket and serve your wines, especially your whites, at the right temperature. Okay, see you back in 3 minutes. Okay, it's been about 5 or 6 minutes. Dry off the bottle. Test the temperature. 50 degrees. That's perfect. It can continue to warm up as we taste it also. Move the ice bucket over here. And let's open this. Now this says the Kirkland Premier Cru. This is an unoaked Chardonnay. It's from Chablis. There are two regions in Chablis. Chablis itself, which is right around the town, and then more confusingly, there's an area that's bigger called Petit Chablis. If you find a Petit Chablis, you can usually get those cheaper, and they're actually very good. They're going to be made in exactly the same style as a Chablis, but they'll be cheaper because they're from a lesser known region. Okay. Oh, I can already smell it. Okay, I've got my tasting card. I've filled out the top. There's a link in the description to the tasting card. Now, let's analyze this. I'm looking for big, bright aroma, a nice high level of acidity, maybe some minerality, the taste of gravel or flint, maybe a little bit of saltiness. Some people say chalk. Okay, I filled out the top of my card. We're going to look at the color. It's a nice yellow pale. Now we're going to score this. Our first score, which is the aroma. This is really your first impression of the wine. Ah, it smells good. Lemony, a little bit of green apple maybe. And the aroma is nice. I'm going to give it a 7. Now we get to taste it. Okay, so dry or sweet. There's actually, I think, a tiny tinge of sweetness here. Very, but it's a dry style wine. The body is light to medium. The acidity, now I should start to feel it. It's not as high in acid as I would have expected. The acidity is round. I'm going to give it fresh. Sometimes these Chablis can have such searing acidity, but I don't actually think that's a good thing. That's kind of a fault. Now the acidity is starting to come through. My mouth is watering a lot. What do I think? I think it's good. I'm going to give it a 7. The balance, this is the play between the sugars, the acids, and that's it, sugars and acids. How does it feel in my mouth? I'm gonna have to take another sip. I like this. It's good balance. A wine either is balanced or it isn't. It's a little watery. I'm going to give it a 7 again. Complexity. Do I get extra aromas at the end or through the drinking process? Not particularly. It's extremely approachable. Maybe a little bit one-dimensional. It doesn't have lots of flavor characteristics go on, but it tastes nice. So I'm going to give it a 6 for complexity. And the finish and length. The length is good. Chardonnay doesn't have a particularly long finish, but this is pretty good. I think it's got a nice finish. It's got a medium finish. The acidity continues through, which would be very good if you were eating something. If you're eating fatty foods, you want high acid wines to strip those fats out. So with Eggs Benedict, you could do that because that's quite rich, has a lot of lemon in the hollandaise sauce. And so those would pair nicely here with the wine, and then the acidity would strip that out, and every bite would be paired well. I could eat a lot of Eggs Benedict and drink a whole bottle of this with it. There goes my cholesterol. Okay, finishing length. I'm going to give it an 8. All right, let's move on to our Russian River Chardonnay. Okay, so our Raeburn California Chardonnay is ready to drink. But before we do drink it, let's talk about this PDF that the winery produced. This is called a tech sheet. There's a link in the description to it. And this is very interesting stuff if you're into wine geekiness like I am. Now, very briefly, at the bottom it talks about vinification. It says that their Chardonnay was handpicked from several different vineyards in the Russian River Valley to an ideal level of 24 to 25.5 degrees Brix. Brix is sugar level. That's all you need to know there. Handpicked means they actually used people to harvest the wine versus using a machine that vibrates the grapes off and then dumps them into a hopper. I'll post a picture of the machine. Once at the winery, we whole cluster press the fruit and gently rack into French and Hungarian oak barrels for fermentation. Gently rack. Okay, so what does that mean? They're going to squish the fruit, they're going to remove the skins and stems, and then they're going to move the juice to large oak barrels for fermentation. Okay, the Chablis is fermented in stainless steel only. So now we're starting to get the influence of oak. A quarter of the juice is held aside to ferment and aged in stainless steel, and then the two lots are blended at the time of bottling. So they're going to use a little bit of the stainless steel oak, like the Chablis, or stainless steel method, like the Chablis is done, and blend that in to add some of that freshness, that brightness, and reduce the influence of the oak slightly. Okay, so there you go, and it tells you here, 75% malolactic fermentation. Malolactic is changing the malic acid into lactic acid. Malic acid is the acid you have in green apples. Lactic acid is the acid you have in milk. And so there's a bacterial fermentation that goes through here where the bacteria actually converts the two acids, one acid to the other, and that changes the character and mouthfeel of the wine. 75% fermented in oak and Hungarian oak. 50% of that is new, so that's the influence of the oak, and it's left in there for 6 months on sur lie aging. Whew, one more term. Sur lie means they leave the dead yeasts at the bottom of the barrel. They let that sit in there, and those yeasts add to the flavor of the wine. Whew. Okay, let's open this up. This is the same grape, but a completely different style of manufacturing. A totally different way to produce the wine. These two wines, while the grape is the same, are not nearly the same flavor. They're going to be totally different. And that's why it's important. That's the whole point of this whole lesson here, is that you can have the same grape and made in different ways, and it's going to taste different to you. Okay, what am I going to think about with the Raeburn? I'm looking for butter, toast. I'm looking for caramel colors, maybe pineapple. Who knows? All right, the color right away. We've got a yellow gold again, and it's pale. Let's go for the aroma. These California Chardonnays are great cocktail wines. So if you need a wine after coming home from work, then this is your ticket. Oh yeah, I said pineapple. There's pineapple. Pineapple, definitely. So that's that fruit aroma. And it's fresh. I think that smells nice. I'm going to give it an 8. Now I'm going to taste this. Dry or sweet? It's dry. It's a light medium body. Now let's see, where's that acidity? It's less acidic than the Premier Cru Chablis. You would expect that. I would call it fresh. It's probably a 7. The balance, now we're balancing that sugar and acid. This is a little bit sweeter tasting wine, but the balance is good. I'll give it a 7. Flavors and depth. What am I going to get extra? Do I get any of that butter or toast or coconut that you would expect from oak, or vanilla? Not really. There's a little bit rich, a little more richness at the end of the wine. It's not overly complex, but you know, these wines are in the $15 range. So you can't expect a whole ton. Okay, so I'll give it a 7. And then finish in length. It's a medium to long finish. It's nice. I'm going to have another sip. Does it add to the sensation? Yeah. All right. I'll give it an 8. Okay, I'm going to go do my math. Okay, here are my final scores for our 2 Chardonnays. The Chablis was 85 points, and the Russian River Valley was 87. Now, you might think to yourself, well, gosh, those are kind of low scores, but they're not really. They're good, middle-of-the-road scores for middle-priced wines. These are, unfortunately, kind of economic wines now. Anything under $20 I would consider economic good wine. The sub $10 wines are going to be more basic, more simple. This is not a wine I would have necessarily every single day, but if I was having a special meal, if I was going through the process of making hollandaise sauce, I might want to have a wine that would pair up with the effort that I put into it. Or if I invite people over for brunch, I want to serve a wine that also equals the effort in the brunch. I'm not going to serve a $6.99 La Crema with brunch where I've put 2 hours of effort into it. Okay, that's kind of where these wines sit. Now you can spend more money, $30 or more, and you should expect a lot more expression, more flavor, more aroma, more yumminess factor. The chuggability should go up as the price goes up. These are both pretty chuggable. I think they're pretty good wines. 18 bucks, Premier Cru, nice, interesting, maybe a little bit of a marketing thing because, yeah, it's good, but I probably still would have bought it if it just said Chablis on it, didn't have to say Premier Cru. And the Raeburn, a nice California wine, indistinguishable from any other oaked Chardonnay. Okay, that's all I've got for you. Next week, we're going to go shopping for Cabernet Sauvignon, so tune in for that. I'm going to go get Sarah. We'll see what she prefers out of these 2 Chardonnays. And leave me a comment. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. Tell me what you think about these. If you tasted these wines or if you have got questions about Chardonnay, ask them in the comment section. And until next week, I say à tout à l'heure and cheers. Ooh, which one do I want to cheers with? I think the Chablis. Cheers.
Hi. Okay, so we're trying one oaked, one unoaked. I'm guessing unoaked. Oh, well, that's not a very strong oakiness, but I think this is the oaked one. It's pretty bright, maybe a little bit lemony. That's tasty. I prefer this one.
That was the oaked Chardonnay.
No! Dang it.